And so, my dear ones, here we are moving along quite quickly into November and continuing in our month of allowing ourselves to be absorbed by the consciousness of the truth that I am a conduit of grace and that I'm a conduit of compassion, which just means an outlet, and fostering that for this month very deeply, being that the absolute focus now. And today it's under the title of understanding that as spiritual beings, that as spiritualized human beings, or human beings that are really in truth spirit, this is an active thing. It's very much an active thing to be a conduit of spirit. And the readings for today were focused in on understanding that we are the image, we are the likeness of that which created us, and we're of its nature, the very same essence, the very same nature of spirit. And so I often ponder, I don't know if you have done this regularly as I do, or even maybe some of us haven't come across it yet, but Meister Eckhart in the 17th century, who was a wonderful, amazing mystic monk, had the expression, let God be God as you. Let God be God as you. And I often wonder what exactly did he mean by that? What do you think he means by that? Because that's all that's important, not what I think or anybody else. But for me, I think he's just saying, be the image and likeness of the one that, created you. And be its essence, and be of its nature in the way you think, in the way you feel, in the way you show up, and in the way you're in action. Be that godliness. Be that godliness. Yes, there is a power for good in the universe greater than I am and all that is of creation, material form. And that power lives, moves, and has its being in me, and I get to use it as it uses me, as its conduit. And we sing all the time, I am the place where God is. I am the place where God shows up, living, moving, having, being. I am the place where God is. We sing it, we say it, we study it, we talk to each other about it. But the question is, are we all showing up as it? And is the godliness that we are easily visible by means of you and by means of me? Because otherwise, it means nothing. So it came to me as I was preparing last night and this morning for this morning's get-together here. You know what, Moira? The answer is, study less about it all. Study less. You've studied since you were knee-high to a grasshopper with regard to all this spirituality stuff. Well, study less and be it more came really clear and true to me. Just be it. Because we know how to be it, because we've studied it a lot, and we've taken endless classes and seminars and all the rest of it. Now it's time to be it. If ever there was a time to be it, it's now. If ever there was a time to be it, it's now. And this action part, we have to get this very, very clear in our minds. We talk about being spiritual activists. Some people talk about being, activists in general, lay people, activists. And we talk about ourselves as spiritual activists because that's what we're meant to be. That's what we are anyway, whether we want to be it or not. We're activists. All of us are activists. We act all the time. Not necessarily along the greatest lines, I might add. Not necessarily along the lines of the highest common denominator, but we're acting all the time. We're in action all of the time. But now we have to ask ourselves, what kind of action does the world need from me right here and right now in order to create that world we talk about that works for all? Oh, we all entertain the idea, and we'd all love to be able to do this and do that. And you speak to council people, you speak to politicians, you speak to leaders of all kinds, and they say, well, yes, it's a great idea, and we would love to be able to be there now, but we're just not there now, and we can just do what we can do right now. And I think that's an excuse most of the time. most of the time. I can't remember which book I read it in. I read so many books, but it was the 3 phases of resistance. And the first phase of resistance is, well, I'm just not in the mood. I'm not in the mood. And the second one is, well, why bother anyway? Because nothing ever results in it. I never see what I want to see out of it, so why bother? And then the third one is, oh, I can stop now because I feel good. I don't have to worry myself about any of it. I feel good now. And I think we all fall into that category somewhere, sometime, somewhen. And I'm just wondering what you think, what you feel about this call to be God now. Let God be God in the world as you. What does that look like to you? What does it look like to me? I'm asking myself that. So it's a rhetorical question. I'm asking us all to ponder that this week. I mean, if I show up anywhere, would I be recognized as the presence and the image and the likeness of God? I mean, is that easily discerned in me? Because if it's not, at least 51% of the time, I'm not getting it. I'm just not. I'm just full of bookology or study or whatever. Because there's something in me that still resists the truth of who and what I am. This is not a time for any of us to be sitting back and letting ourselves off the hook. It really isn't. I know that we are also very challenged, and some of us far more than others. But here's what we'll always come back to and never get away from, ever. And nobody has ever said it better, ever, 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 than the master teacher, Jesus himself. Love God. Love your neighbor. Love yourself. And love your enemy. And do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who persecute you and despitefully use you. Love them. Help them. Pray for them. None of us get off that hook. That's what it is to be God by means of you and be God by means of me. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. It's time to really stop the rubbishy nonsense of them and us. And you and me. It's all of us together. We're all the one thing. So it's the we of us, not the them of us, but the we of us we have to think about in the plural, and the I of us in the singular. So am I the place where God shows up? Are you the place where God shows up? Is that easily seen? Are you a conduit of that compassion and that life and that light and that love? Am I? Or are we falling into forgetfulness all of the time and suffering still from a terrible dose of spiritual amnesia? Why is it we're reluctant to wake up? Wake up and speak out. And there are many ways of speaking up and speaking out. Doesn't mean we all have to take our banners to the streets and wave the banners and shout out. It doesn't mean that at all. Some of us must. And the ones that must are the ones who are called to do that. But for those of us who are called to do that, remember, not everybody is, and do not look down our noses at those who do not do that, because they're called in another way. For example, I know that there's a beautiful way God shows up in all of us in individual situations. And I believe that you and I know many people that we could say, yes, God shows up in that person. They're just simple, normal, everyday people who have a joyous spirit, a kind heart, a generosity on belief, and they always make you feel good when you're in their presence. Ordinary, everyday people that most people don't know of. There's one young man whose story always moves me and still does. And he was a young chap who was bullied at school and didn't have an easy time of it because he was of a very placid nature and so on. And then the war came and conscription came and he was conscripted. And he did respond to the conscription order, but he refused outright that he would not kill anybody. He let it be known, I will not kill anybody, because of his religious beliefs. He was a pacifist. And he got a terrible time through boot camp, a horrible time going through boot camp. He may have had to carry a gun, but he never pointed it at anybody. And then he found himself eventually in Okinawa with all the others. He was a medic now. It's the only thing he could do was a medic. The man showed such tremendous belief in his source. He carried a small little black Bible with him all the time. And he was courageous beyond belief. Up that front he went, up that cliff he went, and he went, and he went, and he went. And he fought through all the difficulties around him to save people. That man in one day saved 75, I think the story is right, 75 men on that day, until he was wounded himself and couldn't go any more. And my, how the respect and honor for that young man grew amongst his peers. He was Private First Class Desmond T. Doss, who received the Congressional Cross of Honor for his bravery and his service to his fellow human beings and to his country. There's a great movie. We'd never know about him, I think, if it wasn't for the movie. And it's called Hacksaw Ridge. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. If anyone could overcome difficulties and speak truth to power, it was this young man, simply by being a conduit of compassion. Amazing story, and I recommend you watch the movie, Hacksaw Ridge. And there are other great stories like that. I could keep us here forever recounting them. And not just by famous people or well-known people, but ordinary, everyday people, if there is such a person as an ordinary, everyday person. Anyway, no one is, because each one is an individualized, unique expression of the divine. Every single one you and I could bow down to as the presence of God, every single one. Whether it's somebody lying in a gutter with a brown paper bag and a bottle in it or whatever, you could bow down in front of that person and say namaste. And until you and I understand that, this world is not going to change the way it could change, the way it really could change. And all it takes is being active where? First and foremostly in our minds. Cleaning and clearing out of our minds all the debris of bias and prejudice and racism and God knows what not else runs around in there. One race, the human race. One people, the people of the one. All of us, brothers and sisters, unto each other. All of us chips off the same old block, the one. All of us, family. All of us belonging to each other, all of us, without exception. No one left out. No one left out. That's how it is to be godly, to understand that there's only one life, one essence, one energy, and each one of us is a point of light in it all. And all these points of light are all connected to each other. And all of these points of light are pulsating, 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 pulsating energy. And you and I want that energy to be everything that's good and whole and wholesome, everything that helps to mend and fix and heal, everything that helps integration and the coming together and the oneness and the unity and the harmony of us all, and no thing less than that. Excuses be gone. So however you are called to be active, be that activity, however it is supposed to express itself through you. And if it is like pacifism, like the beautiful young man expressed in ridiculous circumstances, Whatever it is, be the activity you're called to, be the energy you are called to shine forth on this plane. Make it something that is going to help rebuild, help integrate, help bring together, help mend and fix and heal broken minds and broken hearts and broken bodies. The place is strewn with all of those things right now. Where are you? Where am I in the midst of it? I don't have to save the world, and neither do you. I just have to be in service where I am, in service in my mind, in service in my heart, in service in the way I live and move and have my being. That's all. I can do that, you can do that, we can all do that, because we're never asked to do more than we can do. Be more than we can be. And look at what we could be. We could be the presence of God showing up. No less than that. We could be the presence of God showing up, which is a presence. It's not a person, by the way. I think we all know that by now. It's an energy. It's a love energy. It's a holistic energy. It's a life energy. It's a light energy. And out of all of that love and light and lifefulness, there is tremendous waterfalls, the waterfalls of life flowing through you and me if we would open up and allow it. And why not? If not now, when? If not you, who? Yeah. It's all about you. It's all about me and your part in this and my part in this. And never mind anybody else's business with regard to what they're doing or what they're not doing. It doesn't matter to you. What matters to you is, what are you doing? What am I doing? Who am I being? Who are you being right now? That's all that matters. So I remind us all again, we are the place, the spot, where God shows up, living, moving, having being now. And so, my dear ones, let us make this week our best week ever with regard to knowing who we are, what we are, whose we are, so that we can know how to be in every moment of every day of our lives, because we can. And we can because right where I am, God is. And where God is, everything is possible. Every good thing is possible. So let's be that possibility in action, living, moving, becoming, and having our being, and in so doing, gathering the whole world together in our hearts and soothing it and cherishing it and loving it and blessing it into all that it can be. And that's the truth.